All right, let's talk about one of the biggest failures in project scheduling, something that happens all the time, the broken link between civil and MEP works. This isn't just about pretty Gantt charts. We're going to get into how real-world delays are born, and more importantly, how you can stop them, right inside Primavera P6.
So let me just start with a direct question for you. Is your P6 schedule lying to you? Because honestly, it probably is. It can show everything's green, tons of healthy flow, looking like the project is just cruising along. But in reality, it could be hiding a disaster that's about to bring your entire site to a grinding halt.
And you've got to understand, the stakes here are incredibly high. This quote just nails it. A massive 80% of MEP delays, they're not because the crews are slow, it's because they're physically blocked by another trade. So if you haven't logically tied your civil works to the MEP works that have to follow, any float you see in that schedule, it's completely, 100% fake. It's an illusion.
So let's pull the curtain back on this dangerous lie, shall we? I'm going to show you exactly what this false float looks like inside the software, so you can spot it a mile away in your own projects. This right here is the classic symptom. You open up the schedule and you see a whole chunk of MEP activities just floating. They're totally disconnected from the main workflow. They have no predecessors. As far as the software is concerned, they can start whenever. But you and I both know that's not how a construction site works, not even close. And because those activities are just floating out there, unlinked, you see these absolutely wild numbers pop up in the total float column. 150 days. Looks amazing, right? It feels like you have this huge buffer, but all it's doing is giving you a totally false sense of security. But it's not real float. It's a critical logic failure. The schedule is lying to you because it doesn't understand that the MEP team can't even start their first fix until the civil team has poured the slab. This gap in logic is a ticking time bomb. It doesn't just hide problems, it guarantees delays down the line because nobody sees the train wreck coming until it's too late.
Okay, so how do we fix this? How do we force the schedule to tell the truth? Well, we have to build that logic chain ourselves. Now, this isn't about linking every single tiny task. It's about identifying and locking down a few absolutely critical handoff points, what I call gates, between the civil and MEP teams. In fact, there are 4 non-negotiable gates that really form the backbone of a realistic, truthful schedule. If you get these 4 right, trust me, you are 90% of the way there. So let's break each one down.
Gate number 1, the slab. This is just basic physics. You cannot embed electrical conduits or plumbing sleeves into concrete that hasn't been poured yet. It's physically impossible. So this has to be a hard, finish-to-start relationship. The civil activity slab completion must be 100% finished before the MEP activity concealed works can even think about starting. It's simple, but so powerful.
Next up, the walls. This is a very clear sequence of events. Think of it like a sandwich. First, the blockwork goes up. Then, MEP comes in to run all their services inside the wall. Only after they're done can the plasterers come and close it all up. It's a chain. Blockwork drives MEP, and MEP drives plaster. If you miss these links, you're just asking for expensive rework.
Now this gate, this one is arguably the most critical of them all, the false ceiling. All of your ducts, your pipes, your cable trays, everything in that ceiling void must be completely installed and signed off before that ceiling grid gets closed. This has to be a zero float finish to start link, no exceptions. You get this one wrong and you're literally cutting open brand new ceilings to fix a leak. It's a nightmare.
And finally, we have to think vertically. The main vertical risers are like the arteries of the building. You can't distribute power and water on the 10th floor if the main riser only goes up to the 5th. It sounds obvious, right? But you'd be amazed how often this logic is missing, letting all the upper floors float in a completely unrealistic fantasy land.
Okay, so we've laid out our 4 critical gates. Now for the fun part, let's see the actual impact when we apply this logic to that broken schedule we saw earlier. This is the moment of truth.
So just to recap, this is our before state, a schedule that's basically a work of fiction. We've got those disconnected MEP tasks, that ridiculous 150 days of false float, and a critical path that is completely ignoring the real-world interfaces. You could never defend this schedule.
And now, bam! This is the transformation. We add our 4 simple logic links, we hit reschedule, and look what happens. That 150 days of fake float, it just evaporates. It's replaced by a much more realistic 5 days. And the critical path, it's no longer hiding.
It now runs directly through the MEP works, telling you exactly where the real risk is. The schedule has gone from hiding the truth to revealing.
This is the after state. And this is a schedule you can actually manage a project with. It's a powerful, truthful tool. It reflects what's actually happening on site. It gives you a realistic completion date. And maybe most importantly, when a delay does happen, the logic makes it crystal clear who is responsible.
But listen, this isn't just some technical exercise for planners sitting in an office. This gets into the really serious stuff: logic, liability, and the strength of your contractual claims.
See, a really robust schedule makes responsibility obvious right inside P6. You can use responsibility codes to map which party controls each of these critical gates. So when the civil contractor is late delivering a slab, it's not an argument or a shouting match anymore. The data objectively shows the knock-on effect on MEP. It takes all the ambiguity out of it.
And this right here, this is the million-dollar takeaway. If your schedule has correct logic and it shows you were held up by a predecessor, you have rock-solid proof for an excusable delay claim. You're covered. But if that logic is missing, the delay just looks like your own poor performance. The risk and the cost becomes yours to carry.
So here it is, your action plan. I want you to take this checklist and audit your own project schedule, like today. Go right down the list. Is every single MEP activity tied to a real predecessor? Is your ceiling closure a hard finish to start link? If you find even one no, you've just found a lie in your schedule, and you need to fix it.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought. You know, building the correct logic, that's actually the easy part. The hard part is facing the reality that it uncovers. Because once your schedule starts telling you the unvarnished truth, it might just tell you that you're already late. So the real question is, now that you know how to make your schedule tell the truth, are you ready for what it's going to say?